All right, taking a little look here at the potential for severe weather in the Ohio Valley during the day on Sunday, and got some things to look at here from a general standpoint. The one major, and I say major, could be nothing at all really, that I see that's going to complicate this forecast is an early morning and into potentially even midday storm cluster is going to be coming through, developing from the potential severe weather tomorrow across Iowa and Illinois, Missouri, in those locations, and how the passage of this convective system may affect things such as cloud cover, temper the instability a bit. There's also going to be an area of warm air, a lot of warm air aloft coming in ahead of this strengthening shortwave trough that's coming through the area. And that's also going to kind of put a lid on the atmosphere. And where I think where the actual greater tornado potential could be for Sunday, I say could be, might be in an area where this inversion, this cap doesn't break or only breaks slightly, or doesn't even break at all. Those two, the capping inversion and the overnight MCS and any shortwave ridging that comes behind it, post MCS ridging as I call it, behind it, that could limit updrafts until the front comes down. But by then, everything will probably be forced pretty winds turn mainly southwesterly. Even in the low levels, so we're looking at more of a damaging wind and hail threat. Now, the sounding data that I've looked at does show quite a bit of instability above that inversion, and within the hail-bearing layer, and with a kind of a modest, even though we do have directional wind shear, particularly as you get down into southwest Indiana and those areas, it is a bit on the modest side. The photographs are not very. They're not very wide. They're actually pretty short, but we definitely see potential southeast moving storms. Your deep layer shear is going to be more than sufficient. 0 to 3 kilometer cape's a little low as well. So I don't know. The tornado question throughout the Ohio Valley and even into the Mississippi Valley, if storms can form at all down there, is definitely a bigger, makes the tornado threat throughout the Ohio Valley, everywhere in Ohio and down there into the portions of the Mississippi Valley, maybe in far western Tennessee Valley area, much more uncertain. And so I cannot make a call on that at all. So let's take a look here. This is the more consistent solution that I've seen here. This is the NAM Nest. And as we kind of go forward here, you'll see some thunderstorms developing around Joplin. Now this is early tomorrow morning, and if you notice here, quite a several complexes of storms out here in the northern plains. As we move forward, that complex, and you can see kind of a linear segment forming there till we get into Saturday afternoon. Right there, you can see there's some southeasterly winds and some supercells developing ahead of the main line. So now those could be those will be capable of all hazards, and there probably will be a greater tornado threat with those. And then you can see how they develop, and the bow echo kind of begins to weaken with time. But as you can see, the supercells there's a pretty limited window for supercell activity down there in southern Iowa. So that even that tornado threat, while it will probably be realized, it's going to be much weaker. Some storms even down to Oklahoma, down again around Joplin. But you can see here, once that MCS goes away, the threat will become more limited until later in the day when we get redevelopment post the MCS, and depending how the environment is there as well. And you can see here we got storms, maybe even some supercells, tornado potential will be in there till they quickly congeal into this massive line, this MCS here. And as we go forward into Sunday morning. See the line goes across Iowa into Illinois. It comes into Indiana. And during the day on Sunday, will begin to weaken as it goes into Ohio there. I won't rule out some severe weather with that. Much more uncertain, though, that far east. And it would be mainly a damaging wind threat if it happened. Now, as we go into Saturday afternoon, I want you to take a look at the winds here. You can see, I don't know if you can see the arrows there or not. And then late in the afternoon, you can see there's thunderstorms blow up rapidly over the Indy metro area. And with those, there is some turning in the lower levels, but I mainly see unidirectional shear in here, which means basically they're going in the same direction from the ground all the way up. And so with the amount of instability and shear in place with this line right here, we're probably going to have, particularly when they first blow up, big hail could be with some of these storms. I'm talking like 2 inches plus in diameter could actually be occurring. And then wind damage will become a predominant threat as this develops and then moves on off to the east. And you'll notice once it gets to that Indiana-Ohio line, it does appear that the main MCS, the main squall line, is actually going to go into Kentucky, maybe the Cincinnati area. But this right here puts more uncertainty further to the north. I won't rule out some isolated severe storms, even into portions of western Ohio, maybe even central Ohio. If this holds together, you can see some development even ahead of it there. But definitely any one spot getting severe weather may be a little bit more challenging here, as most of the energy is going to be absorbed into this MCS that'll develop and move across to southeast Indiana into Kentucky, continuing to the Lexington area, and then continuing for good while overnight, maybe getting as far south as portions of central and eastern Tennessee. So formidable there. So that's the way it looks right now. The big question's the overnight complex. What does it do? How does it affect the atmosphere? And where do we go from there?